In the year PM 3548, human explorers on the planet Big Demon discovered the remains of an ancient spacefaring civilization. In the decades that followed, the mysterious artifacts revealed startling new technologies, enabling travel to the farthest stars. The technologies represented the greatest leap in human advancement since the beginning of the Avatar cycle. It was heralded as one of the greatest turning points in human history. To the denizens of the galaxy, it was the Mass Effect. Chapter 2. The Warning. He pounded his fists on the table. "What do you mean, control the Reapers? Are you deluded?" The other in front of him gave a smile, broad and toothy, his eyes half-lidded. "Don't worry too much, Avatar. With your assistance in this endeavor, our success is guaranteed. Just imagine it, Sajuk. All that power, ours to control. It will ensure the eternal existence of our empire. We will rule with the stars until they burn out. By selling our souls, and making a mockery of everybody who has died fighting them," the Avatar answered the charge. "You have been deluded by the machines, lied to. This is all the machines ever do. Synthetic life will destroy organic life. Have you forgotten the Metacon, the Zatil? Are you so dense?" "But this won't be like those petty conflicts," his counterpart said, his form flickering briefly as the projection caught up to its transmission delay. It didn't strike the Avatar by surprise that the man would be so cowardly as to offer his plan from halfway across the galaxy. "We will have absolute control of the Reapers. Their technology will become our technology. We will have the power to retake the Citadel. Our proudest symbol will be ours again." "You are not simply deluded. You are insane," the Avatar said, turning away in disgust, his arms crossed before the red plates of his armor. "There can be no quarter for the machines, only death from one side or the other. And there can be no slavery. The Zatil taught us that lesson clearly. Our technology becomes their flesh. Be thankful you are not here, stranger. If you were, I would shoot out all of your eyes twice, once for being a traitor and twice for being stupid." The stranger sighed, his grin fading into an expression of dismay and disappointment. "If you cannot be made to see sense, then perhaps your replacement could be more amiable." "My replacement?" the Avatar asked. The projection of the stranger vanished, and the projector sphere which had been floating in the air, emitting it, dropped to the ground. It fizzled out and then popped open, defunct. The Avatar looked to the soldiers who had sworn to die before allowing the unstoppable horde of the Reapers to lay a single corrupted tendril upon him. "What is this madness?" "I cannot say, Avatar. We must complete our plans before—" "Warning!" the voice of one of their own announced. Folding out of the Avatar's arm came a virtual presence, standing as proudly as any soldier ever would. "Indoctrinated presence detected. Thralls have surrounded this area. Recommend immediate egress." "We are surrounded?" the soldier asked, and was answered when the wall was smashed down by the hulking mass of an Orivore Kingslayer, smearing half of the Avatar's contingent into paste under its unnaturally bloated girth. It turned, its 6 eyes staring deadly at the Avatar, as the latter brought up a rifle to fire upon it. But as the others scrambled back, away from the deadly form of the Kingslayer, dozens of others flooded in around it, each a mockery of the Avatar's form.
"Assuming direct control,"
a voice reverberated from the stone of the bunker, and the eyes of the Kingslayer now glowed a golden light, so bright and shining from within, the enemy of their empire, that it seemed almost ready to burst of it. It raised one of its 4 arms and pointed at the Avatar.
"Kill everyone but the Avatar. That one is required."
Shepard's eyes flit open as she could almost hear the thud as consciousness snatched her away from the strangest dream she'd ever had in her life. She rubbed at her face, relieved that she could both move her arms and had a face to rub. It felt like somebody had slammed a metal pole through her brain and then set it on fire, but she'd had worse, like the time she'd tried Wrinkle with addicts. "Shepard's awake!" Alenko's voice cut into the confusion, as Shepard levered her legs over the side of the bed. And it was a bed she was on. She looked down, her vision clearing enough that she could now make out that she was in the med bay of the Normandy. How she got there, she hadn't the first clue. "You should take it easy, Shepard." Dr. Chakwas' voice came to her. It was a smooth and regal tone, somebody of high education and high standards. Shepard had intended to speak to her before hitting Eden Prime, but Nihilus got in her way. "You had a lot of people worried up here." "I feel like I got headbutted by a Krogan," Shepard said, rubbing her brow. "That's it. Then I'll tell the captain you're ready for the debrief in 5 minutes and a cup of coffee," Chakwas said with easy sarcasm. Shepard instantly knew that she and the doctor were going to get along just fine. "I didn't say it was going to kill me, just that I felt like hell," Shepard said. She gave a glance to Alenko, then back to Chakwas. "How long was I out?" "About 15 hours. Something happened down there with the beacon." Alenko sighed. "This is all my fault. If I hadn't gotten so close to that thing, none of this would have happened." "I'm still not exactly sure what did happen," Shepard said. "Where's Nil's daughter? And Al-Wahim?" "They were the ones who brought you in when the beacon exploded," Chakwas said. Shepard scowled, leaning forward. "I don't suppose it occurred to anybody that Eden Prime has working hospitals?" Shepard asked. "You're better off here than in any colonial hospital, that I can guarantee," Chakwas said, with a tone of mild insult. "Besides, the captain wanted you to report to the Citadel immediately. I defer to his judgment." "If I'm not needed here, I'm going to tell the captain she's awake," Alenko said, casting a thumb over his shoulder. Chakwas nodded, and he departed. "Shepard, while you were unconscious, I did a brain scan, and detected some things I did not expect." "Oh, here we go," Shepard muttered. "Besides the massive increase of REM-type brainwaves, I also detected a great deal of encapsulated EZO in your cerebellum and brainstem. I was about to send the scans to Captain Anderson, but I felt I should ask you why you didn't join the Vanguard program while you were still in N7. This much EZO, and encapsulated as this is, it could only mean that you're a—" "I don't want to hear it," Shepard said. "I'm not sure I understand. Most young people would give away their very bending to have this kind of biotic potential." "Yeah, and why would they give away their bending again?" Shepard asked with a fine snarking form. "I'm the Avatar. I don't have time for space magic, and even if I did, it'd just get in the way of more important things. If I'm a biotic, I can't bend. That kind of defeats the purpose of the Avatar. Now by all means, be a good doctor and let it die." Chakwas shook her head slowly, but shrugged. "As you wish, Commander, but—" "No buts. I'm not a biotic. If anybody asks, you didn't find anything," Shepard said. "I will not lie to the captain," Chakwas said, standing her ground, even against the Avatar's glare. "Then don't offer it," Shepard said. Chakwas's next protest was cut off by the sound of the door opening behind the two of them. Shepard quickly slid to her feet, almost losing her balance for a moment, as she turned to see that Anderson had joined the two of them in the medbay. "How's our XO holding up?" Anderson asked. "Besides what had to be some intense dreaming and some—" a warning glare from the Avatar. "Other, minor abnormalities, I'd say the commander is going to be just fine." "Then I'd like an opportunity to speak to the Avatar. In private," Anderson said. Chakwas nodded gracefully and then left their conversation. Far be it to say that she was a nosy one. Probably the best thing about her. Anderson looked the Avatar up and down. "I hear the beacon knocked you around pretty hard. How are you holding up? Really?" Shepard shook her head. The dream was fading, but there were flicks of images, words that stuck in her mind. "Not sure. This is frustrating. The beacon is apparently defunct, Nihilus is dead, and this Saren is the one who did all of it. Geth outside the Veil? The Council's going to be on us like stink on a hog monkey." "So we're going to have to give them something that proves that this wasn't a complete disaster to the Council." Shepard scowled. "The Council can kiss my pink ass. I didn't do anything wrong." Anderson stared at her. "I give you a lot of leeway because of your unique status, Shepard. But we're entering a new arena, where nobody's going to care that you're the Avatar. If you go out there with that sort of attitude, you're only going to make enemies. And the enemies you make will be the kind who I have no way to protect you from. So as our collective grandmothers have informed us for thousands of years running, if you don't have anything constructive to say, you might be better not saying anything at all." Shepard sighed. He was right. "Aye, Captain." "For what it's worth, I'll stand with your report, Shepard. You're a damned hero in my book. You saved the colony and you dispatched the Geth. But it's Saren who's our biggest problem. He's a specter, a living legend at that. Nobody is going to be willing to believe that he's working with the Geth, let alone that he's gone rogue. He's dangerous, and his anti-human sentiment is unknown. He thinks we're growing too quickly, and I don't doubt he'll do whatever he can to stop us. And he'll have the council eating out of his hand, Shepard continued. He'll spin this, that it was our fault we lost the beacon. And like the Dai Li used to say, there are no Geth on Eden Prime. The beacon was without a doubt the reason why Saren was on Eden Prime. You have any idea why he wanted it? You were in direct contact with it, Anderson pressed. Shepard sighed, rubbing her temples and flicking red hair over his shoulder. I had a vision, maybe. Now that she tried to remember, everything was so indistinct, so blurry. Like she was trying to remember something somebody else saw, through a different set of eyes. I saw synthetics. Geth, maybe. They were slaughtering people. Butchering them. Anderson nodded, not even questioning the strangeness of it. Then again, Anderson was probably well aware that he was dealing with the Avatar. And as was often said of her august predecessors, weird stuff just tended to happen around the Avatar. We need to report this to the Council, Anderson said. And tell them what? That a super special human who you all despise anyway had a bad dream after getting hit in the head? They're never going to believe that, Shepard said. We should just go after Saren directly. That's not an option, Anderson said. You've been sheltered from politics for a long time. Not every assignment is going to be like Torfin. Sometimes you have to be a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Being the Avatar means you have to be the great mediator, as well as the bender of 4 elements and the great bridge. I would have thought the last 4 years would have made that clear. Yeah, 4 years spent learning new ways to fight. That's useful. It'll be the least of your weapons going forward. Your mind and your words will be far more valuable, I think, Anderson said. But whatever the case, if the doctor says you're cleared, then you're free to go. But don't stray too far. We're going to report to Ambassador Udina soon. He's on the Citadel, Shepard pointed out. And in about an hour, we will be too, Anderson said, before giving the Avatar a final nod and departing the medbay, leaving the Avatar to her splitting headache and her questions about what the hell just happened to her. The Citadel, center of galactic culture, seat of the Council, which was itself the most extensive political body in existence, hub of technology and communication for dozens of species, last and greatest relic of the Prothean Empire, left behind in silence after their disappearance, only to be rediscovered thousands of years later by the Asari and the Solarians. And it was rather very large. There exists few constructions which stand even comparable to the Citadel. In terms of engineering, it remains a mystery to most who try to unlock its secrets, which still happens on a decadely basis, even with the thousands of years of Asari stewardship. Something so monumentally massive should, by most understanding of even Mass Effect-related engineering, torn itself apart by the slightest shudder of movement across the 5 great arms which extended forward like drab petals of a neophyte flower bud. But it didn't. So those petals were now home to more than 14 million people and aliens. The most absurd part of the whole structure was the hub which held it together. Less than a few hundred meters thick, it spun slower than the rest of the station, resulting in lower gravity, which had to be compensated for by mass generators. That alone should have torn the station to bits, and at the very heart of the hub, like a stamen reaching up from the center of a flower, was the Citadel Tower, from which the Council pulled the strings of the galaxy, and watched how it danced. "This is an outrage!" Udina's voice took the sky within the Council chambers. He was quivering with indignation. In other words, business as usual for the Ambassador. We admit the Geth attack on Eden Prime is a matter of some concern. However, its proximity to Outer Council space gives us pause. The Asari counselor, one Ophalia Tevos, said. Of course, the Asari weren't women, per se. Their species only had one gender, and they played fast and loose with naming conventions as a result of that. We simply have no proof that our Spectre operative was involved in any way. especially since our investigation by Citadel Security showed no evidence to support your charge of treason," remarked the Turian at her side. That would be Arathius Sparatus, his own species counselor. His tone was, as usual, snide and dismissive. "An eyewitness saw Sarian Arterius murder Agent Nihilus in cold blood," Udina stressed. "We've all looked over the Eden Prime reports," the Solarian counselor placated. Shepard didn't even bother trying to remember his name, only that most simply called him Valern. "We cannot accept the testimony of a traumatized dock worker given the circumstances. That was a terrifying situation. Much could have been misunderstood or misremembered. And we should not be surprised that the human Anderson is bringing these charges forward," the projection of Saren, the last bugbear in the room, said with a smooth, effortless arrogance of someone who was halfway across the galaxy from where people wanted to shoot him. "As I recall correctly, your last attempt to sabotage my good name did not end so well, and it appears that you have brought a protégé. Who would this be? The woman who allowed the beacon to be destroyed?" "The Avatar is none of your concern," Anderson piped up, as Shepard tried to hold her tongue, and failed. "The mission to Eden Prime was top secret. The only way you could have known about it is if you were there," she snapped. "When Nihilus died, his files defaulted to me," Saren said with a wave of his hand, whatever. "I read the reports. I was not impressed, but what can you really expect coming from a human?" Shepard's fist clenched tight. "Your species needs to learn its place, Avatar. You are deluded if you think you're ready for the responsibilities you're asking for. No human is worthy of entering the Spectres, let alone having a seat on the Council." "That's not his place to decide," Udina snapped. "In this, the human ambassador is correct," Tevos said, glancing to her fellows. "This session is not interested in the pending Spectre status of Commander Shepard. It is regarding the charges levied against Agent Arcterius." "This meeting is pointless and slanderous," Saren said. "End this before it becomes a... what do you humans call it? Ah, yes, a circus." "There's still one outstanding issue," Anderson said. "Don't," Shepard warned. "Shepard's vision may have been caused by the beacon," Anderson finished anyway. Shepard palmed her face, and could predict Saren's response word for word. "Are we allowing dreams into evidence against me now?" Saren said incredulously. He waved with disgust. "I refuse to even acknowledge that kind of charlatanism with a response." Sparatus nodded. "I agree. Our decision must be made upon hard facts and evidence, not wild speculation of an alien's purported..." He raised two of those fingers. "Avatar vision." And the worst part was, Sparatus was right. Shepard shot a glance to her commanding officer. He should have known better than to bring that into this. She certainly had no intention of bringing it up, but no, now humanity had to be the terrified pig duck, running around like the sky was falling, because of one purported bad dream. She made a mental note to never let Anderson get into any position of real political power. He might be a damn good military officer, but even Shepard knew that the man was too easy to outfox in this battleground. "We have reached a level of consensus," Valern said. He tilted his head towards the human. "Unless we have something else to add?" Shepard shook her head bitterly. "You've already made your decision. I won't waste my breath." "Very well," Tevos said. "We find no reasons to pursue the charges of treason against Special Tactics and Reconnaissance Agent Saren Arcterius. This meeting of the Council is adjourned." In a bitter silence, the counselors fled away from their dais, and the projection of Saren vanished from sight. "Brilliant," Shepard said. "My vision? Did you really think that was going to fly with them?" "I had to try something," Anderson said. "Still, I don't think this is over. Saren must have made a mistake somewhere. If we can find out what it is, we can bring him down and destroy his protection with the Council." His mistake was simply being there, Udina countered. There is too much history between you and Saren. You colored the Council's perspective with your presence alone. I know that man, Anderson said grimly. He'll stop at nothing to exterminate humanity. If we don't stop him, then there's no place humanity can set foot to be safe. Not even Earth. Regardless of your feelings about him, he does need to be contained, Udina said. You'll need to find a way to expose his connection to the Geth. That will show he's gone rogue better than anything else. Shepard sighed, and turned to where the others in her little party were clustered near an extranet terminal. I take it you heard all that, Shepard asked. Couldn't help but, Alenko said. He scratched at his chin. It occurs to me. Were you paying attention when we were coming in? Not really. Why? I overheard an argument between the C-Sec executor and one of his detectives. Garrus, I think it was. This Garrus said he wanted more time to find something on Saren. Maybe he might know something we don't, Alenko said. If he doesn't, then at least he would be handy to have on our side. Man, remind me not to get laid when you're in the same ship as me, Nil's daughter said. I'll be sure to put my headphones on if the need strikes you, Alenko said with a smirk. Nil's daughter made a gagging noise at that, to which Al-Wahim chuckled richly. Not bad, LT, she said. I have my moments, he answered calmly. I will destroy you, Nil's daughter promised. Whatever you decide, it will be up to you to track it down, Udina said. Anderson has muddied the waters enough as it is. They need a fresh face the next time something comes to the fore, and it means it must be on no hands but your own. Is that clear? Crystal, Shepard answered. Good. There is a man in C-Sec who should be able to direct you. Sho, one of the first human C-Sec officers. And if there is nothing else, I have tasks that require my attention. Please try not to create a diplomatic episode while you're on the Citadel. My job is already difficult enough, Udina said before striding away. Stick up his ass must be the size of the Citadel, Nil's daughter noted quietly. Button it, Nil's daughter. That man deserves your respect, Anderson said. Sorry, sir, Nil's daughter answered, instantly a model of respect. Anderson had that effect on people. Sho is an ostrich horse's ass, Anderson said. He's a disgrace to the uniform. Hell, I'd say he's a disgrace to all uniforms. I might have someone else you could contact. He's a Krogan, probably down in the wards. He might come off the brute, but he's got a cunning mind, and he owes me a few favors. A Krogan solution is a good solution, Shepard said. Where? He'll probably be in Quor's Den. Named after one of your predecessors, I'm told, Anderson said. She probably would have liked it. Seedy bars in Krogan, this day's starting to look up, Nil's daughter opened. Are we sure this is a wise choice? Al-Wahim asked. How could it not? Nil's daughter answered. Hardly seedy. Just don't pull a gun and they won't call the bouncers, Anderson offered. He took a moment to adjust his uniform, then nodded as they passed by another Alliance officer who was arguing at length with a Turian. Now, I need to be very publicly and obviously seen in a place very far away from whatever you choose to do. You know how it is. This is still bullshit. You deserve better than that. I had my shot. I blew it. This is yours, Anderson said, which caused Shepard a moment's confusion. I'll see you when you get something that connects Saren to the Geth or Eden Prime. He moved aside into one of the many rooms which flanked the lead-in to the council chambers. She didn't know at this point that it was a green room connected to a private transit hub. A pity that she didn't figure it out until so long later. Elevators. I can't believe this shit. Weren't we supposed to have teleporters by now? Nil's daughter asked as the lift's door opened. And the gaggle of humans, both terrestrial and extraterrestrial, piled in. You can't believe everything you see in sci-fi, Nil's daughter, Alenko said. We move shit with our minds, that's total sci-fi, Nil's daughter answered back. I had been meaning to ask you about that, Alenko said, leaning against the wall and giving the younger woman a professional inspection. Overheard Dr. Chakwas talking. Is there anything you don't overhear? Al-Wahim asked. Not much. I noticed the biotics you were throwing out there on Eden Prime, and Chakwas said that you were running with an experimental amp architecture. Where did you get it? None of your damn business, she said, rubbing at the back of her neck where the implant was situated. "Hey, I'm in the same boat, but on the opposite side," he said. "I'm one of the last people wired up with the old L2 configurations. And I was one of the lucky ones. Most of Alma's early attempts to isolate biotics either misclassified them as airbending or ended up giving kids lifelong seizure disorders. I just get migraines. But you seem a little young to be one of the L3 testbed subjects." "Drop it, LT," Nilsdaughter snapped. "It's a sore subject," Shepard pointed out. "Nobody's making you say anything." "Fucking reverse psychology," Nilsdaughter complained. "Fine, I've had this thing in my skull for as long as I can remember. I don't remember getting it, and I ain't touched it from the time I was adopted until I joined the Corps." "So, you're running with a decades-old biotic amp, which is somehow better than the cutting edge out of the Ceres Council," Alenko summed up. "You want answers? Go read the back of a math book. All I know is that it's in there, and I got no damn idea why," she said, crossing her arms before her chest. Of the lot of them, she was the only one wearing something resembling civilian clothing, mostly because any armor was a waste of time in her case. And while there was no useful reason to have an Alliance squad of Marines in their armors, there was likewise no reason not to cut an impressive swath. She was the Avatar. She had to put up appearances. "That's all you're getting out of her, Lieutenant. Best leave it there before Jackie makes you a smear on the glass," Shepard said. "Thanks, Shepard," Nilsdaughter said, her tone distant and distracted. Nilsdaughter was one of 3 humans who had survived the butchery of Torfin, and the only other one besides they two scrubbed out of the service on a Category 6. Her discovery as the Avatar was likely the only thing which kept the lot of them out of the stockades. "I feel something of an outsider to this," Al-Wahim said with her hands raised. "I take it the Lieutenant is almost as new an addition as I." "Who said you were a new addition?" Shepard asked as the doors finally opened. Those elevators were going to be the death of her. "Captain Anderson had her transferred to the Normandy's Marine Division," Alenko offered. "What? Why?" "You wound my pride," Al-Wahim said sarcastically. "You need to ask him," Alenko said. "This happened while you were out. One woman can't hold a garrison, after all." "Not if she doesn't try hard enough," Shepard said. She moved out first, past where one of those floating pink jellyfish things was arguing serenely with a Turian in the black and blue armor of C-Sec. She shook her head at the absurdity of it and kept walking. The Presidium was, according to virtually everybody, the crown jewel of the galaxy. The horizon swept up, as it was built onto the outermost surface of the ring upon which the entire station turned. Running the length of its belly was a lake, broken by stretches of parkland where it transformed into rivers before vanishing up under the horizon. Aliens of many description moved about their daily business. "Big place," Alenko noted. "That your professional opinion?" Nilsdaughter asked. "Imagine how many others have stood in this place," Al-Wahim said, with a tone of quiet contemplation. 3,000 years of Asari and Solarians, and how many more thousands of Prothean before they? "We're little fish in a big pond, I get it," Shepard said. "That doesn't mean we gotta sit back and let the Turians push us around." "It's not the Turians that are a problem here," Alenko said. "It's the image we're making for humanity. The first aliens we meet were hated by almost everybody, and we have a substantial enclave set aside for them on our homeworld. Sure, it's the most dangerous place on Earth, but that point is lost on the Solarians. The second aliens we encounter, we immediately go to war with. The third set of aliens we meet, we drive off the Citadel within a year. Even if it's not intentional, we're disruptive." Shepard had to see Alenko's logic. They all took a left, crossing the bridge over a river, and moved to a cab terminal. Shepard did a quick head count. Yeah, she should be able to fit them all inside a taxi. And that, at least, would spare her from another God's damn elevator. "We have word from our agents in the Alliance government," the Asari said, as Saren meditated in the heart of his servant and master, the greatest force this galaxy had ever seen. "We have done more research into this Avatar." Saren turned to the matriarch at his side. She hadn't always been. When they began, she had tried to sabotage him, to direct his actions with the subtlety of a razor in the dark, but he'd broken her down. piece by piece, until he had something he could build back into something useful to him. It had taken time. He had all the time in the world. Sovereign had promised that much. "Do tell," Saren said. Benezia rounded the table that Saren looked over, and kneeled herself. She was once a beautiful woman of the Asari, but time, and in particular these last few months, had given her a severe and austere edge to her appearance. Her face, once rounded in good health, even despite her millennia of life, now fell gaunt, and her eyes were somewhat sunken into her head. She was running out of time. Soon he would need to find somebody else as useful to him. The Avatar was once akin to a demigod amongst the humans. It is an entity which they claim returns once per generation amongst their warrior class. "They're benders," Saren said, investing scorn into that word. "Indeed. The Avatar, unlike everyone else, can utilize all 4 elements at once. As well, they are purportedly shamans, and were once pivotal humans in their history. In recent days, they've become essentially celebrities, when they're discovered at all." "So, an Avatar is just as valuable as anybody else," Saren concluded. "Not quite," she continued. "They can summon a force to themselves. Some say they summon the strength and knowledge of every Avatar before them. They call it the Avatar State."
Avatar State. The Avatar lives.
Saren felt his existence lurch to one side, and a rage ripped through him, so beyond his capacity to control it, that he could only let it flow and ride it as it overwhelmed him, his hands hauling the table aside and causing it to smash against the wall. With a snarl that didn't even sound Turian, he heaved Benezia up by her throat and slammed her against the wall. She didn't even try to resist. His hand squeezed, and then he stopped. He loosened his hand, but leaned in towards the blue-skinned alien. "We must find and kill the Avatar, no matter the cost." He stepped away from her. "My experiments on Noveria are beginning to show fruit. Ensure that the process continues apace." "As you wish, Saren," she said, not meekly, but defiantly obedient. Saren moved back to his place, and crouched back down, opting to meditate once more. He had to stay in control. Ignore the whispers in the back of his mind. Sovereign was depending on him. The galaxy was depending on him. She'd expected a vile hive of scum and villainy. She got a jazz club. "I expected more filth," Al-Wahim offered. The truth was anything but. The sign near the door was about the most provocative thing around. The silhouette of a powerfully built human woman, if one not wearing any obvious clothing. But as soon as the doors opened, contrary to the pulsing, throbbing beats which came from out of the clubs like Purgatory or Flux, this one was the smooth crooning of a sungi horn, and a gravelly voiced woman singing songs of loss and love. Shepard was so surprised at her breach of expectations that she paused outright in the door. "Is that a Quarian singing?" Alenko asked. "I've never seen such a thing," Al-Wahim said. "You want weird? Try listening to the Elcor Colmare. Even other aliens don't know what to make of him," Nilsdaughter said with a laugh, then sauntered up to the bar and ordered something usually used to strip paint. Alenko gave a sigh and glanced to Shepard. "She does know she's on duty, right?" "Nilsdaughter works just as fine drunk as most soldiers do sober," Shepard said. The whole structure was arranged in a ring, the bar parked in the center of it, and the stage sat above it all, its 4-piece ensemble pointing outwards, and the Quarian woman slowly circling above the bartenders' heads, as she produced what Shepard had to assume was Quarian jazz. Not bad. "Is that Addix?" Alenko asked, leaving behind the biotic at the bar and moving to a booth to one side. The old establishment must have been a dance hall, because the seating was obviously crammed into space usually reserved for private dances, and barely had enough room for the inhabitants of the table alone. Thus, the 2 human women had to borrow chairs from another table and turn them in order to speak to the Krogan at the table. "I didn't peg you for a jazz kind of person," Alenko said. Reich Addix was a familiar face to most of humanity, but his hearty laugh was much more homely to the crew of the Normandy.
"I didn't expect you to allow yourself to have enough fun to come down here,"
the Krogan countered. His eyes were large, blue, and shifted towards the size of his head. On Earth, that would indicate that he was a prey species. Then again, the Krogan evolved on Tuchanka, a planet where the closest thing to an herbivore they have is called a Nathak, and those things could tear a human limb from limb in a second if provoked. The fact that it needed provoking was probably why it was so far down on the food chain. As for the rest of him, his skin was slightly orange, his skull plate a much darker hue, and, of course, like all Krogan, he had the face of a constipated wolf bat.
"And what brings you down to this wonderful little drinking hole?"
"We're looking for some people," Shepard said. "One of them's Sho, a human C-Sec officer. The other's a Krogan from Erdnot." Addix leaned back.
"You don't want to deal with the Erdnot. That clan's about as hateful as you'll find on that blasted Earth. Pretty much every Erdnot alive is about as hateful as their clan leader, Reeve. My advice, find somebody else to deal with."
"Tell us how you really feel," Alenko chuckled. Addix rolled his shoulders and shook his head.
"I've been around a long time, human. I've gotten to know what the Krogan are like. We're not all fun and cuddly like me."
"I shall take your word towards that," Al-Wahim said suspiciously. She glanced around the bar, trying not to be too conspicuous. Then again, 3 humans in combat armor in a jazz club wasn't exactly the height of either couture or discretion. "How will we know this Erdnot Rex when we see him?" Her question was answered when the door leading in opened, and 2.5 meters and more than 300 kilos of particularly irate-looking Krogan entered Korra's den. He stomped past the people queuing up for the bar, knocking one of them into a table, which caused Shepard to focus on him over the shouting of recriminations and slurs. The Krogan was wearing red. The armor looked old and worn, but she didn't doubt that even if she busted down its kinetic barriers, it'd still take time to pound through that much plating. Red was very much the Krogan's color. He shared it with his eyes and skull plate. And the flesh that ran in scar furrows up his face was a reddish sort of orange.
"What are you doing here, Rex?"
the bouncer at the back of the bar demanded, staring his fellow Krogan in the eye.
"Out of my way, sterile whelp."
Rex's voice turned out to be very deep, and it resonated with anger.
"Unless you want to become an orange smear when I kill Fist."
The other bouncer, a Turian, took a stand behind his Krogan co-worker. "We talked about this, Rex. If you bother Fist again, we're bringing in C-Sec," the Turian said.
"C-Sec will be here in 12 minutes. I'll be through and gone in 3,
Rex pointed out. Shepard had to say she liked his style, but sadly she was denied seeing if the Krogan's capability lived up to his bravado, because the door opened once again, and fully a dozen blue and black armored C-Sec entered the bar, mostly Turian, with a few Solarians for flavor. Rex gave a half-amused glance back at them. "We've been over this, Erdnot Rex," the Turian in charge said. "You can't make threats and not expect consequences. Are you going to drop this, or are we going to have to bring you in?"
"What do you think, Rent-A-Cop?"
Rex said, a smirk on his very wide mouth. That question was answered by 12 automatic rifles being shouldered and pointed at him. Rex offered a chuckle, then turned back to the 2 bouncers.
"You can tell your boss I'm coming for him. I'll just have to make a stop-off first."
Shepard got to her feet and edged a bit closer to the angry red Krogan. "Hey, Scarface," she said. A big red eye flicked towards her. "I was told to talk to you."
"Well, I'm not in a conversant mood,"
Rex answered. She tried to catch his arm as he shouldered past her, but when she did, she could feel what was once considered 800 pounds of muscle tensing. So when his other fist twisted and slammed right into the gut of her armor with enough sheer force to bend steel beams, she had a fraction of a moment to roll with it. Still, it sent her flying into Addix's table. The wind knocked thoroughly out of her.
"I said I don't feel like talking, human. Don't try that again." "Shepard!"
Alenko said, pulling her off the table. Addix just shook his head, and nobody got in Rex's way as the contingent of CSEC escorted him out of the den.
Shepard, are you all right?
Oh, don't get into fistfights with the Krogan, even if you're the Avatar, Shepard recommended.
I could have told you that,
Addix said peevishly.
That was Erdnot Rex. He tried to shape things up on Tuchanka about 3 centuries back. He got shot in the quad for his trouble. If there's a bigger ball of anger and hate in the galaxy, I don't want to meet it.
I think we might have to move to Plan B, Alenko said. Are you sure you're up for this, Commander?
Please. Hong took harder hits than that in the head during the Relay 314 incident,
Addix pointed out. And how could you possibly know that? Al-Wahim asked.
I was there. Humans might be squishier than a Solarian, but avatars are made of rocks and wrath,
Addix said with an approving nod. We have to be, Shepard said, her voice somewhat ragged from the diaphragm pounding she'd taken. So many people try to kill us.
We can do this another time,
Alenko offered. We're here, and I'm not letting Saren get any advantages over us, Shepard said, shaking her head violently. For all we know, he's got agents cleaning up the loose ends as we speak. Which ones show?
Are you sure, Commander?
Alenko asked. You're my soldier, not my nursemaid. Where is he? Shepard snapped. Alenko sighed and nodded towards a booth near the back, which was flanked by 4 lovely ladies. Well, 3 humans and an Asari. The center of that table, though, grinning like he owned the world, was a man with a long strand of beard, a fancy suit that nobody with CSEC pay should be able to afford, and a haircut that possibly cost as much as Shepard's rifle. Not that it was an expensive haircut, of course. She took a deep breath, making sure that there was no quaver in her voice. That'd just be embarrassing. She stepped up to the foot of the table, where the lone male at the center turned away from where one of the women were whispering something into his ear. Such a bevy of different people, and Asari, eating out of one greasy bastard's hand. Your officer shows here share of the Citadel security?
Between 10 and 4, yeah. What's it to you, Army?
The man asked, his tone entirely too confident, entirely too smooth. He had the complexion of an Easterner, but his eyes were blue. He could have been from literally anywhere, so she just decided to take the easiest path and ignore trying to talk nice and appeal to his hometown. As I understand it, you've got the lowdown on a Turian I need to speak to.
Lady, I got the lowdown on enough Turians. Not much point to them. They can't even eat the same food as we do. And isn't that a terrible shame, ladies?
Yeah, that's half the fun, show, the Siwang-Yi woman said with a grin. Well, she didn't have the accent, so she probably was a colony kid. Shepard just shook her head. I'm not here about food, show. Where's Garrus Vakarian?
How about you sit down at my table and maybe I'll whisper it over my pillow in the morning?
Sho asked. Shepard felt her blood pressure start to rise. I'd rather hump a Solarian, she said. I'm not going to ask politely again, Sho.
Look, you've got something I want, and I've got something you need,
he said confidently, pulling the red-haired, freckled girl to his left a bit closer.
And honestly, I gotta say, I got a bit of a thing for redheads. They've got such nice skin.
Shepard gave a glance back to where Nil's daughter was drinking. The biotic mimed a gun to her head with a smirk. Well, the devil on her shoulder had spoken. With a hiss and a click, followed by screaming, Shepard leveled a pistol to Sho's face. His confident smirk vanished, quite satisfyingly. The girls all tried to stream away, but trapped between the booth, the seat, and Shepard, they had nowhere to go. So just kept screaming. The jazz continued, but if with a more concerned Quarian, who was now trying to keep a pillar between herself and Shepard. Here's the thing. My skin's under 4 centimeters of ablative armor protection and layered kinetic barriers. Your business suit's a bolt of silk over flop sweat and gutless bastard, Shepard said. So you're going to tell me where Garrus is, or I'm going to ruin that suit so badly that you can't even get cremated in it.
You're insane,
Sho said. Shepard smirked, but felt a very large, very strong hand slam down on her upper arm, squeezing hard enough to almost break the bones.
The Krogan bouncer was not looking very happy.
"Put the gun away, Army," the bouncer demanded. "No bullets are bending in Fist's club. Break the rules and I break what's responsible for it."
"Yeah, that's what I figured," Sho said as the women fell silent. Shepard glared at the Krogan, then back to Sho. She ground her teeth but put her gun back against its holster, a position of her armor specifically created to make a Mass Effect field to hold the weapon in place. With a nod, the Krogan let her go, to rub her bicep and glare. "You must be one of Anderson's boys," Sho said. He waved his hand, and the ladies, to their credit, didn't return to his side, merely staying where they were in the booths. He gave a scowl at that, but shook his head. She figured that his head was finally in a place where it could think about something besides what ass feels like. "You hear the big secret?" "You're wasting my time, Sho. I'm strongly considering breaking rules." "That tribesman used to be a Spectre," Sho continued. Shepard leaned back in confusion. "Yeah, I get that a lot. He managed to fail so spectacularly they not only kicked him out, they expunged the record of him even being one. So it's no surprise that his lackey is as incompetent as he was." Shepard glared down and looked to the Siwang-Yi. Her cup was steaming and black. Coffee? She must be an Anitist. She looked back to Sho, then cracked her knuckles. "So, feel like hearing about Garrus? Well, you can pay in ass or cash, and as you can tell, I got plenty of cash," Sho offered. So, she swiftly leaned across the table, grabbing his beard and pulling it straight down. Then she grabbed the coffee and put the very hot mug to the side of his now pinned face, letting the heat build up through the ceramic. "I've had about enough of this," Shepard said with a remarkable calm to her voice. "Now you're either going to tell me where Garrus is, or I'm going to give you a burn that Metagel can't fix." "Ow! Damn it! Security!"
"She ain't bending or shooting," the Krogan said, content with where he was standing.
"Ah, all right, Sho said, as the women now bolted away from the two of them, fleeing the club with all possible haste. Good for them. Shepard released his beard and drank the coffee. It was black and bitter. He glared at her, but she just stared back, stone-faced at him. "Garrus was nosing around the medical center just above the Zakara ward access to C-Sec. Don't know why. Now will you stop trying to kill me?" "I make no promises," she said, finishing the coffee in a second-grade swig. "You're corrupt as hell. Probably taking bribes from anybody who offers. Sooner or later, C-Sec's going to give you the boot. But until then, just remember, sooner or later you're going to piss somebody off enough that they're going to want to shoot you. And when they do, they won't have a Krogan bouncer stopping them. So long, Sho." She turned on her heel and moved towards her crew. "We've got a location," she said. "Nilstarter, form up." The Biotic knocked back her drink with one pull and had the barkeep put it on the N7 tab, before joining up with the humans. "All right, I'm feeling a bit looser. Where are we heading?" "A med center. A couple stairways from here," Shepard said.
"I know that place,"
Attic said. All eyes turned to him.
"What am I, Mr. Exposition? It's a med center, and I know about it. Big whoop."
"Garrus Vicarian is supposed to be there," Shepard said. She turned to Alenko. "Any chatter?" Alenko's Omni-Tool flicked on, and he shook his head. "Whatever's going on there, it's going on quietly." "Then we'd better not waste time," Shepard said. She gave a chuckle. "At least there aren't any elevators." "Small mercy," Al-Wahim said. Dreams. Death in dreams. Screaming. So many dead. So much failure. Vengeance. Blood. Alone. Slow. Cold. No, not alone. Another. Shouldn't be. Hard to think. Too cold. Death in dreams. An empire falling. Eyes glowing white in the darkness. Dreams. Dreams. "So instead of elevators, we get stairs?" Alenko asked. If I wanted to get sober, I'd hit up Murdoch in engineering, Nil's daughter muttered. Oh, so that was you trying to become sober? Al-Wahim asked. What, you're listening too? Nil's daughter demanded. I'm pretty sure everyone on the Normandy heard you, Alenko said gently. Nil's daughter growled, like the barely domesticated animal that she portrayed herself to be. Shepard, on the other hand, had more immediate and aggravating concerns. They stood a bit under 2 meters tall, had straw-colored hair, and were entirely too eager. Commander Shepard? Is that you? The eager man asked. Who's asking? Shepard asked, taking the immediate turn at the top of the stairs. Vexingly, the fire ferret of a man walked with her. They say you were the butcher of Torfin, but I know better, he said. But where are my manners? My name's Conrad Werner. I'm your biggest fan. Great. I have a groupie, Shepard said. What do you want, Werner? They said you killed 100 Geth on Eden Prime, Werner gushed. More like 2. Is there something you want, or are you going to pester me until you make a mess of yourself? Shepard asked. Well, I would like an autograph. It'd make my wife so happy to have something from the hero of Eden Prime to show off to the neighbors, you know, Werner ordered. Shepard sighed, then pulled out a grease pencil from one of her pockets and idly scrawled her initials on his shirt. Will that do? It will? Wonderful. Go away, Shepard ordered. This is fantastic. Thank you so much, Commander, Werner said with the glee of a girl getting her first Sotomobile. With a squee, which frankly hurt Shepard's ears a little, he bolted back down the stairs they had come up. Alenko, though, was shaking his head. That was a bit harsh, Commander, he pointed out. He was being annoying, Al-Wahim admitted. Hell, he should be happy Shepard didn't punt him into the nebula, Nil's daughter said. And speaking of, Alenko said, taking a moment to turn and face out the great window which flanked the landing of the ward access. There was no doubt that they offered the best view of the Citadel. From this spot, and this spot only, you could see the whole stretch of the arms, even though the tips were almost 50 kilometers away. The sheer scale of the Citadel made the Turian dreadnought, which floated in the gaps, each of them 3/4 of a kilometer in length, seem tiny specks. You can't see sights like this back on Earth. Of course not. We have better shit to do all day, Nil's daughter answered. The lieutenant is not wrong, Al-Wahim agreed, leaning towards the distant star, burning coldly against the mass of gas in which the Citadel spun. We stand overlooking millions of aliens. We have known that we stood amongst them for less than 50 years, and had contact with them for 30. There's no surprise in that they see us as... How did he put it? Ah, yes, FNGs. We are quite young to their aged society. Ah, man, I thought you'd be on my side in this one, Nil's daughter muttered. I can understand why the Council wants humanity to step up or shut up, Alenko said. We're a drop in the bucket out here. The melting pot of Republic City kind of pales against this, am I right? You're not wrong, Al-Wahim agreed. Shepard felt a smirk come across her face. Well, what's not to like about humanity? The old vids say that we've got plenty of water, beautiful women, this emotion called love. Gag me with a spoon, Shepard, Nil's daughter complained. They want us to scratch for every inch? Then we'll scratch deeper than they think is possible, Shepard said. She turned away from the Widow Nebula for a second. Then, second looked, staring out again. What the hell is that? It was big. For a fraction of a second, before her mind kicked itself for considering something so stupid, she thought that Saren's ship had come to lounge in space between the Citadel's wings. After that moment of stupidity passed, the differences were obvious. For one thing, it was smaller, roughly half the length, which still made it the biggest ship in the vicinity by a heady margin. Second, it was blue. Third, it had a hole through the middle of it. That would be the Destiny Ascension, crew of 10,000, and it has a cannon which could tear through any ship in the Alliance fleet in one shot. And kill the ship hiding behind it, too. Biggest ship in the Citadel fleet. If I hadn't been on Eden Prime, I'd say it was the biggest ship in the galaxy, Alenko offered. Shit, man, is there anything you don't know? Nil's daughter demanded testily. Alenko gave a shrug. I read a lot. You should try it sometimes. Fuck off. Nils' daughter, Shepard said sharply. Right. Fuck off, sir, Nils' daughter corrected herself. That's better, Shepard said. The clinic's just ahead. Can you jarheads keep yourselves out of trouble for a few minutes while I talk to the administrator? I can make no promises while that one is present, Al-Wahim offered, casting a thumb towards Nils' daughter. Smart girl, Shepard said, idly punching the door controls. The door opened with a chime, and she sauntered inside at a ready mosey. So much of a mosey, in fact, that she'd gotten an earful of what was around the corner, rather than charging blindly into it. I didn't tell anyone, I swear, the woman's desperate voice came. Well, that was smart. And if Garrus comes around, you better stay smart and keep your mouth shut, 'cause if you don't... Shepard walked round that corner and took in what was before her. 3 thugs, all of them armed. Her gun was still at her hip. Her face was emotionless. The leader of the group of thugs turned from the doctor, as red-headed as Shepard, and was there something about the Citadel that attracted the Whalish, or was it simple chance that all of the copper-haired landed here? To Shepard herself. You got a problem, lady? I'm looking at it, Shepard answered. The man flashed forward with an arm, hauling the doctor to his chest and thrusting his gun towards Shepard. That wasn't smart. Back off, or the doctor here gets a new hole in her head, the thugs said. The other 2 brought up shotguns. Shotguns, in a clinic. That was just untidy. Do you know who I am? Shepard asked, taking her gun and setting it on the counter, which separated the front, where she'd entered, from the back, where the thugs had bunkered down. The thugs gave a look between themselves. Some army bitch, one of them piped up. So you haven't been paying attention to the news back on Earth from the last 4 years? Typical, she said. Well, I was hoping that you'd do the smart thing, piss yourselves in terror and slink away, but since my reputation doesn't seem to precede me... Back off, bitch, I'm warning you. It was a mistake to warn her. Shepard's eyes flicked past the man to an IV drip of saline, which had been set and forgotten. With a twist of her hand, the long strands lashed out, coiling around the man's neck, and then constricting very tight, very fast. His eyes bugged as he dropped the firearm and clawed at his own neck, bound as it was by water-bent surgical tubing. She's a bender, the goon, who had been silent until now, offered. He raised his weapon and fired a blast, which bounced harmlessly off of her barriers. Not that that would last long. She lashed forward with a kick, one which lit with fire, blasting the thug aside. The last backed off a step, as he fumbled with the safety of his shotgun. She vaulted the counter, one hand still clenched as she choked out the first of the goons, while focusing on the second. Finally, the last of them dropped his shotgun and grabbed the metal lid of a container, holding it before him like a shield. Really? Shepard asked, and then she punched straight through it, catching the man by the lapels. With a heave, she sent the man, face first, into the plate he was trying to defend himself behind, dropping him senseless to the floor. The first stopped thrashing, so she relaxed her other grip and the pipes went loose. But he was still unconscious. I'm the Avatar, and you guys are below my pay grade. She turned to see a shotgun in her face. Oh, she thought to herself, I hope my shield stopped this, otherwise that would have been the most ironic thing anybody had ever said before dying. That worry turned out to be moot, because the side of the man's head jerked, and erupted in pink spray which coated the wall, the gun dropping from his dead hands. Shepard traced the shot back, expecting Al-Wahim, but instead of dark brown skin, she found gray. She backed up a step from where the Turian was calmly turning Shepard's gun around and handing it back to her. He was quite a bit taller than she was, and his mandibles weren't nearly as severe as some other Turians she'd seen. His face also bore blue markings, and his visor hung before his left eye. Thanks for the distraction. I was worried I might have to do something drastic if I took them all on at once. The Turian's voice had a bit of a vibrating tone to it. Not unpleasant, but indeed strange to Shepard's human ears. At around that point, the others piled into the clinic, weapons drawn. So they were paying attention, and also the fight was that short. Sokka's theory of relativity did seem to hold some truth after all. Garrus Vakarian? Shepard asked. The Turian nodded, before turning to the Whalish doctor. Dr. Makayu, are you all right? The Turian immediately asked. The woman nodded. Who sent those men? They were sent by Feast, she answered, the lidding tone of the southern archipelago clear in her voice. They wanted Zaquarian who came here. Wait, what Quarian? Shepard asked.
Is everything all right in here?
Alenko asked. Not now, Alenko. What Quarian?
A Quarian came in, bleeding from a bullet wound,
Mikahayu said, her voice quavering from the adrenaline of being involved in a gunfight.
She said she was being hunted by a Turian because of something she found. Somebody shot her to keep her quiet, with a polonium round. Somebody wanted her to die in agony.
She shook her head, tears in her eyes.
This is my fault. I put her in contact with Fist. He's an agent of the Shadow Broker, so I thought...
Not anymore, Garrus cut in, shaking his head. He's working for Saren now. I tracked his finances. He's gotten a sizable gift from Binary Helix. 2 guesses who owns Binary Helix. Saren's trying to kill this Quarian. I say we find out why.
What about Rex, Commander?
Alenko asked.
Heard not, Rex?
Garrus asked. He's probably down in C-Sec right now. It's just around the corner. We should probably scoop him up, Nil's daughter pointed out.
Are you forgetting that he might have broken one of the Commander's ribs?
She was out of line, Nil's daughter pointed out. Plus, she tells him that she's after Fist. He'll probably jump at the chance. You're probably not wrong there, Shepard admitted. We're taking the stairs.
The elevator's right this way,
Garrus offered. Stairs, Shepard stressed. The Turian gave a confused glance towards the others, as the Avatar made her way out of the med clinic. The scarred biotic, who had known her longer than anybody else, could only give a confused shrug and beckoned him along, as they all filed out after her. Date, 12/13/312. Priority Dark Purple, Admiralty Line, Raya. If you're reading this, Father, then I am probably dead. I swear I tried to make you proud, but I think I might be involved in something a lot bigger than me, and a lot bigger than I know how to handle. I'm so sorry. I wanted to return with something special, something which would change our people forever, but I'm not sure if I'll be returning at all. I don't know if this file is going through. It keeps giving me a message, some incompatible file warning that any Boschtat with a suit would know how to send. It's just Geth programming and it's inactive, but I promise this was important. I'm going to make this right, somehow. Kila, my hands won't stop shaking. My leg hurts more than you'd believe. There was something in that bullet. Oh, right, somebody shot me. No, Father, don't give me that face. I know you're making it even though I'm probably dead by now. I don't know why I'm typing this. It doesn't Right, focus. I don't know if I can leave this anywhere. You know how important this is to our people. So promise me you'll send somebody to get it. I'm trying to find a way to talk to the Shadow Broker, but I'm not sure that he's going to listen, or if he's even real. It's the Spectres. One of them is... She stopped typing, 3-fingered hands pausing on her Omni-tool, as bright eyes glanced around her under her purple-tinted helmet. Between the pain in her leg and the terror which coursed through her, she was trapped between being hyper and wanting to sleep. She was fairly sure either was a bad idea. One of the Turians nearby was watching her. Her glances towards him were probably alerting his attention. "Are you all right, little lady?" the Turian asked, moving closer. She retracted from him. "I'm fine. I think this is my stop," she said. "No stop for a couple of minutes," the Turian said, draping an arm across the back of the seat, as though he was trying to grab her and pull her closer. She leaned away. "You know, there's a lot of Quarians on the Citadel these days. Can't say I'm complaining." "That's nice," she said nervously. "You sound cute," the Turian said, inching closer. His mandibles twitched into what a Turian would call an easy smile. "I figured you'd be a lot of fun on the dance floor." She almost wilted with relief. He wasn't trying to kill her. Then she went rock solid again. He was hitting on her. She wasn't sure what to do about that. I'm not sure if... I'm not a very good dancer, and..." she hemmed and hawed. "What's to know? You just let your body move," he said, moving a hand to her knee, which caused her eyes to bulge before having a hand migrate upwardly. "And it can take you to some remarkable places." Right about then, he applied pressure to the bullet wound, which caused her to shriek, twist away, and fall onto the floor, clutching at her still very tender wound. Even though her suit had been patched and resealed, it still burned like nothing she'd ever experienced every time something touched it. All eyes turned to her on the ground.
Then they turned to the Turian on the seat.
You pervert!
A Solarian voice shouted. I didn't do anything! The Turian raised his hands.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I barely touched her!
So you did touch her!
She didn't even try to get involved in the lynch mob that was now quickly forming. She simply pulled herself to her feet and ducked through the crowd to the doors. As soon as the transit tram came to a halt, leaving the bewildered and indicted Turian to capture the people's attention. She opened her Omni-tool again, and looked over the message she had been composing.
Stupid, stupid,
she shook her head, feeling her hair shift under her helmet. She flicked a few keys and deleted the whole thing.
I am not a coward. I am not a child. I can do this. I can do this.
And with a hitch in her step, Tali'Zor and Araya began to move through Zakera Ward.
We've talked before about you making threats, Rex, the human in front of him said. Rex just folded his arms before his chest. If you keep disturbing the peace like this, there will be consequences.
The only consequences are going to be for Fist. I will kill him.
Rex said, with a sort of ease and comfort of violence that only came from 900 years of life, most of which spent in turning killing into a damn art form. The human sighed and rubbed his head. Do you want me to arrest you? The C-Sec officer asked.
Rex chuckled darkly.
I want you to try. Better than you've attempted.
Can we dial back the testosterone, gentlemen? A Turian voice, sarcastic and smooth, asked. Rex didn't need to turn to see the alien in question approaching. Rex?
Vicarian? What do you want now, Turian?
Gongzu, I think we've got this, Garrus said, waving off the various aliens who thought that they were going to restrain Urdnot Rex. Rex turned to face Garrus square, and more tellingly, he faced the gaggle of well-armored humans who were assembled behind him. Rex, always making threats your fists can't keep.
You obviously haven't seen what my fists are capable of. Unless you're giving me permission to kill Fisk, then you'd better get out of my way.
Actually, we're doing just that, one of the human females offered. Rex's wide mouth twisted into a scowl.
Is that some sort of joke, Army? Still sore that I put you into your own table?
Rex demanded. Garrus looked back at her, and she shook her head. The Turian then shrugged, probably thinking it was none of his business. This was all something Rex would have to plume in greater detail in the future. Look, you're going after Fist? Turns out, so am I, the human female said. You want him dead? No problem, as long as I get what I need from him first. Rex stared at her, then turned slightly to Garrus.
And you've got no problem with this arrangement, C-Sec?
Garrus shrugged. If a small-time scum gets painted into the walls to take down somebody a lot bigger, I think the rules can bend a bit to accommodate that. Rex gave a dry laugh.
That's my kind of thinking, Vicarian. You'd almost make a good Krogan.
Garrus chuckled. We both know I don't nearly have enough scars. The lone human male amongst the group caught the most verbose female's arm and leaned in.
Are you sure this is a good arrangement, Shepard? Isn't this against the law?
Saren tried to destroy a human colony. The law can sit down and shut up, Shepard answered. Rex's opinion of her raised a little bit.
Fine. If you're going after Fist, then I'm coming with you. I will not have a sniveling, backstabbing piejack jumping on a ship to Omega. Is that clear?
Crystal, Shepard continued.
Good. Now can you get these monkeys off of me?
Rex shot a glance to the other humans who were warily observing him.
I'm tired of being watched by things which I can kill without even intending to.
You heard the large, ancient, angry Krogan, Garrus said easily. Give him some space, and this won't be on anybody's head but mine. Hey, you want to get wrapped up in this one, Garrus? Be my guest. That human said, waving him away. Garrus smirked at the Krogan. That better? Rex shoved him aside and moved to the elevator, pounding the open button hard enough that it gave a grinding sound that he was fairly sure it wasn't supposed to. Still, the door opened and he stepped in. The rest of the humans followed him, arraying in the tube like a drop squad. The red-haired one, Shepard, turned to face him more directly.
What is it, human?
Rex demanded. What's your business with Fist anyway? Yeah, you want to kill him, but you didn't say why.
He works for a Turian named Saren Artiris. That pissed me off, because I wouldn't much mind seeing that Turian's head on a stick. More lucratively, that pissed off the shadow broker, and he's offering a pretty decent reward for putting a fresh hole in a former agent. So, money and vengeance. What other reasons are there in the galaxy?
I like this guy, the shortest female said with a grin. Rex tapped his finger along the armored plating of his suit. It was old armor, as scarred and pitted as the Krogan inside it. That was just the way things went with Krogan. They tended to use something until it fell to dust, almost like they couldn't bear to part with it. And Rex was no better. He used a century-old suit of armor, shot a 30-year-old gun, and nursed 300-year-old grudges. The speakers crackled hideously upbeat muzak, which sent the Krogan's blunt teeth into a steady grind, until the music stopped. News from the biotech firm Serta Corporation. A long-standing financial dispute between Krogan investors and the genetic firm have seen hitherto unexpected advances, now that the human group Samsara has stepped in as a mediator in the dispute. While analysts believe this is a token gesture, and will see no advancement to either a cure for the genetic sterility nor the return of their cash, the human involvement has caused the rise in Serta stock prices of almost 9%. Man, that's gotta suck, the small female muttered.
What? That every Krogan alive has an irreparable illness embedded into every cell in our bodies? One which makes it so that only 1 in 100 eggs hatch? With most pregnancies not even reaching that far? No. That's just a joy, human.
They couldn't have hit every Krogan, Shepard said.
If they didn't, then the ones that they missed were staying very, very quiet for the last 1,000 years,
Rex said testily.
Forgive Nill's daughter. She doesn't tend to think before speaking,
the male human offered. She does not tend to think, the dark-skinned female countered, which drew what Rex had to assume was a rude gesture from the female in question.
This is why I hate elevators,
Shepard muttered.
Well, if you want to use the stairs again, it's only 47 levels between C-Sec and Zakara Ward access,
Garrus offered sardonically. The music started up again, which caused Rex to studiously ignore everything, so that at least he wouldn't be subjected to bad music. One might not be able to tell, but bad music to a Krogan was the rough equivalent of dead-sober garage dentistry to a Solarian. About as unpleasant a thing to be visited upon them as one could manage. There was a reason they never talked about it even after the uplift. The Turians would have probably weaponized it. The doors slid open.
About damn time,
Rex declared, pushing the other 2 males in the elevator out of his way so that he could traverse the dingy corridors of the ward. Even as he moved, forcing the humans and the Turian to keep up or fall behind, his lips twisted into something like a grin. There was a joy to violence in the old Krogan. It could be precise as a scalpel, or as brutal as an orbital strike, but in the end, it was all the same thing. Something was getting done for a change. No standing around and talking, no arguments like those idiots and their money and their research. Concrete action, with concrete effects. Other people would think you're trying to leave us behind, Shepard's voice came at Rex's right. The Turian soon appeared on the Krogan's left.
They'd think right, Rex said. If you're going to do this, don't get in my way.
I don't think you know who you're dealing with, Shepard said.
A squishy human, just like the other 11 billion squishy humans out there,
he said. He rounded the first turn, and thus was the one who took a hypersonic slug into the chest. Snipers! Shepard shouted, pulling her sidearm and glancing around, while the Turian produced a rifle, seemingly from his own rectum. Rex just gave a scowl, ignoring the crackling of his armor and the sting of orange blood where the slug had bit through it, and looked up. He could see 2 of them. One of them was reloading, and thus not worth his effort. The other, though, was looking to take a shot at the human. While he did for a split second consider allowing the shot, if only to see what the arrogant human would do, he decided against it. With a grunt, he focused his effort into his fist. There were a few things he could do with that effort, but tellingly for any, say Asari or Solarian, there was no glow of blue energy, no hum of biotic fields coming to life, because he didn't use one. Not for this. So when he slammed his fist into the dividing wall between 2 shutter stores, it didn't do so with directed gravity, but with something else. He forced his will through the metal, and the metal bent. It shot up in a swift wave, mostly doing little visible past where he'd embedded his fist into the titanium mesh, but its very propagation sent tremors back to its source, and with those tremors, Rex could see his target every bit as well as he could see it with his eyes. And he knew the very character of the hidey hole he'd secreted himself into, trying to duck behind a sign. With a twist of Rex's fist, the metal of that sign bowed away, sparking as the lights were sundered, and the floor under the sniper bucked upward, dumping him into the air. Everybody knew that the Thunderwalkers could twist the stone to their wills. Few knew that Thunderwalkers could do the same to metal. Rex stomped to where the sniper, a Turian, had fallen, still trying to bring that rifle back around, even as he was stunned on the ground. Rex disabused that notion by introducing one bony head plate to another. Sadly, the Turian's was much, much thinner than Rex's was, and gave with a crunch. Still, Rex reared back his fist, which pounded straight through the compromised structure into blue-black brain. He looked up just in time to see Shepard hurling something at the first sniper, who was staked out on the roof of a small greengrocer. That sniper didn't have much of a chance to shoot again, instead voluntarily bounding down to the street. Lucky he did, since Shepard's grenade would have probably made paste of him. And kudos to Shepard for thinking ahead to bring grenades into a city fight. Most people wouldn't have had the quad for that kind of overkill. The human gunman landed with a roll, and when he came up, it was to spray a burst of fire into the two who were still behind the Krogan. Shepard ducked behind a landed aircar, but the burst caught Garrus pretty squarely, fizzing away his shields and drawing a streamer of dark blue from his shoulder. He answered by flicking forward an Omnitool and causing the would-be assassins' kinetic barriers to shit themselves with lightning.
"Stop playing with them, Shepard,"
Rex demanded, and charged across the distance with a wordless roar. His path forming a brutal arc which ran parallel to the street and towards the human. But when the human tried to bring his gun back towards the Krogan, there was neither the time nor the distance. So when a ton of armored Krogan hit, the lighter of the two bodies tended to get a lot of momentum imparted to it. The crunch of liquefying bones was the least of that human's worries, as Rex's charging backhand lifted him off of his feet and sent him flying dozens of meters through the air. The much more present one was the fact that the street only went 10 yards, before ending abruptly to surging aircar traffic in the lanes beyond in open space. The splat the human made as one of the hapless aircars intercepted him brought a grin to the centuries-old Krogan's face.
"That's how you fight like a Krogan. Now stop cowering and let's go kill Fist."
Shepard laughed at that, which was telling of her character. As they moved ahead, Cora's den finally coming into view, they left behind a slightly exploded greengrocer, which finally dropped part of its roof into its display. The gray-haired and frazzled owner struck his head, then looked back at his wares before letting out a despondent wail. "My cabbages!"
"Was that necessary, Commander?"
Garrus asked. "They tried to kill us. They probably would have succeeded if Rex hadn't been there," she pointed out.
"You're welcome,"
Rex said bluntly.
"That wasn't a thank you,"
Garrus pointed out.
"Sounded like one to me,"
Rex said.
"Now, let's see what Fist has in store inside his club."
Shepard cut in front of him, a devious smirk on her face. "How about you letting me handle this one?" Rex stared at her for a moment.
"If this starts to look like it's going wrong, I'm going to start shooting, even if you're in the way,"
he said, plugging the bullet hole in his armor for a few seconds. His body needed only that to stop bleeding. She kept smirking as she holstered her gun and walked ahead of them, into Cora's den. The den was silent for a change. But it was not empty. Even from behind Shepard, Rex could count at least 24 gunmen scattered through the club. Most of them were human, with a Krogan and 2 Turians making up the difference. And every single one of them had a gun levied on Shepard. There was a moment of pristine silence.
What was that brilliant plan, Commander?"
Garrus asked.
"Gentlemen,"
Shepard said loudly, "do any of you keep track of news back on Earth?"
"I do,"
a voice came from the back.
"Shut up, Way."
"Do you know who I am, then?" Shepard asked, folding her hands behind her back and standing straight and proud. Another moment of silence. No, not silence. Rex knew the difference. This was dread.
"Agni, help us! That's the Avatar! The Avatar, she's alive! The Avatar's come to kill us all! Oh God, I don't want to die!"
Without a gun drawn, or another word said, and without that smirk on Shepard's face altering one whit, every human in the club threw their guns aside and made a break for any exit, even if it meant running past Garrus and Rex. The Krogan, in this instant, was too amused to do anything to stop them. That left 3 guards, facing 3 interlopers. The Krogan took a look at them, then at Rex in particular.
Hell with this. I ain't paid nearly enough,
he said, putting his shotgun away and moving to the bar to steal liquor. That left 2 Turians. Last chance to avoid death or incarceration, Garrus offered with a sardonic sing-song. The 2 Turians exchanged a glance, then split out the back door. I have to say, Shepard, you really know how to clear a room. Shepard gave him a glance, but didn't offer the quip that Rex was certain she was going to expel. In that, his opinion of her rose a bit. They circled the bar quickly enough and came to the door leading into the back. Rex smirked and then stomped the ground, heaving the metal to tear the thing out of its mooring. Nothing happened. That smirk twisted into a scowl, and then Rex remembered the salient little tidbit about the skills of the Thunderwalker.
Lead. Who the hell puts lead into a door?
Somebody who doesn't want a metal bender opening it remotely, Shepard answered. Damn it, where's Alenko when you need him? Got it, Garrus answered, his omni-tool glowing. The Krogan and the alien turned to face him. These things have a lot more uses than people realize. Even a commercial one can hold surprises. Shepard gave a shrug, then pounded on the green haptic tile, causing the door to open with a hiss, and then a second hiss, as a pistol expanded in the hands of a desperate-looking Solarian. Rex had his shotgun out and in front of him before he could even second think, but Shepard just looked annoyed. Black eyes flit wildly amongst the 3 invaders. Everybody stay back! I don't want to hurt anybody, but I will unless... Shepard haymakered the Solarian into the wall, where he crumpled onto the floor in a more or less boneless heap. Hurt me? I barely felt a thing, she answered. Please don't punch me. I don't think my helmet could take it, a Quarian voice answered. Rex sighed and put up his shotgun.
It's the band, Shepard,
Rex said. Fist said that somebody was going to be shooting their way in, the Turian bassist said, scooping up the woozy Solarian. Remnants here thought it'd be a good idea to keep a gun just in case. Well, your friend's an idiot, Garrus said. Pulling a gun on somebody is the best way to get yourself shot. Yeah, but... Oh, thank the spirits C-Sec is here, the Turian said, turning to his fellows. Did you run off the criminals? Something like that, Shepard said. Where's Fist? The human who runs this place? He's still in the back, the Quarian said. I mean, I didn't see him leave.
He's there. Stop chattering with the band, Shepard. We've got a job to do,
Rex said, pushing the Turian and the door behind them. This one opened up without anybody needing to fiddle with its circuits, which suited the Krogan quite well. He stomped into the room and immediately raised a brow under his skullplate, when his foot stopped clanging against metal and instead gushed into a damp shag carpet. He didn't pause long. The human he was looking for had his back to the door, furiously typing on a console. With the carpet managing to muffle the stomps of a ton of angry Krogan, he took the opportunity to sneak behind the no-good 2-bit traitor. The only warning that Fist got was when Rex's shotgun hissed upon its opening. Fist turned to him. He was the kind of red that humans got when somebody pale spent too much time under the sun, or any amount of time under Arlac. His face was crisscrossed, with thin scars, and his eyes were a watery color.
Trying to leave the Citadel without saying goodbye, Fist? That's just inconsiderate.
Rex, think about this. You don't have to kill me, Fist began. He certainly believes he does, Shepard added, entering the room with a rifle out pointed at the criminal. You're working for Saren, and Saren wants a Quarian dead. Where is she? She's not here, Fist said quickly.
Then you're useless to us,
Rex began, raising the shotgun for a head-popping shot. Give him a second, Rex. He's probably getting to the important part, Garrus said immediately as he entered on their heels. C-Sec! You can't just stand here and let these people intimidate me! Threaten me! Garrus shrugged. I'm here on a non-official capacity at the moment, he said. You've got 5 seconds before I rip your balls off and feed them to a Krogan, Shepard said. And then she paused and turned to Rex. How do you like your human testicles anyway?
Raw. Preserves the vigor,
Rex answered. All right, Fist blurted out. I sent her to where Saren's commandos are waiting. It's in the ward access. It's just outside one of the keeper tunnels. If you hurry, you can get there before the kill goes down. That's probably the best news I've heard all day, Shepard said. She clapped her rifle to her back once again. She glanced back behind her. Who's the next of kin on this bar anyway? The bartender? Why? Fist asked. Shepard and Rex shared a look, and something like an understanding. And with that, the Krogan offered a grin, before idly turning, holding out his shotgun at human face level, and erasing that part of Fist's anatomy. Garrus leaned back, mostly to try and keep the chunks from landing on him. Rex turned to the Turian next.
I suppose you're going to arrest me now for acts of cold-blooded murder.
Fist was scum, earning his money off of sexual slavery in the wards. You just saved me a lot of paperwork, Garrus said easily. How about we agree that I didn't even get here until the body was cold? I have no idea who could have done this heinous, appropriate crime.
I like the way you think, Turian, Rex muttered. Now where did he hide that damn thing?
As Rex stooped and started rifling through the former Fist's pockets, Shepard was working on her Omnitool. Her eyes grew wide. God damn it, that's far, she muttered. I've got to go. Whatever you're doing, good luck with it.
Yeah, I'll be in touch,
Rex said. He continued his routing, while the Turian was idly trying to make sense of shag carpeting, as the commander bolted from the club. Fist would know where Actus was. Rex staked his 3 remaining testicles on it.
There was quite a bit of running, all told. So much that only the fact that she was an N7 Marine, on top of an avatar with some degree of airbending, allowed her to maintain the murderous pace she had pushed herself on. However, that pace made it so that after about a minute, she intercepted the humans she'd left behind in her headlong advance towards Cora's den. Alenko raised a hand towards her. "Shepard, why are you running?" "No time to explain, pull a weapon and keep up," Shepard shouted as she sprinted past, and to their credit, they did exactly that. It was bad enough that she had to reach a distant location in the ward axis, but she didn't wager lightly that Saren would be sending more than a few incompetent flunkies to deal with a threat to his plan's integrity. So that meant a side track to group up with the humans who'd been left a couple minutes behind by the Krogan's fairly ruthless advance. "You mind explaining now?" Alenko asked as he drove his pace to keep up with his commander. "The Quarian's about to be assassinated," Shepard offered. That was going to have to do, since she didn't feel like explaining any further. The crowds began to grow more thick, more obscuring and curtailing, and Shepard was running out of time. With a growl pulling to her lips, she pulled out her sidearm, pointed it at an electronic transformer, and squeezed several shots off. "Get out of my way!" she roared, and with an explosion of electricity, on top of the gunfire in the wards, the people parted like a swimming pool before a hydrophobic waterbender. "Was that exactly necessary?" Al-Wahim asked. "Maybe not. Fun, though," Nilsdaughter chuckled. They moved forward, a small band of humanity cutting through the heart of an alien culture, a place which, given the choice, would rather have none of them. The streets got dingy, then dirty, as they escaped the oversight of C-Sec, and the air cars turned from decent models to old beaters, and then to frames with most of their workings removed and left sitting on top cinder blocks. While Tertiary Ward had a worse reputation, it was hard to see why. Of course, the reason was obvious. If a dead Quarian turned up in a place like this, who would even notice? Shepard skidded to a halt in the mouth of an alleyway, between 2 tall, smutty buildings. A glance into it showed somebody within, pacing with a hitched step. That must be her. Shepard moved quickly, storming into the alley. The Quarian, a woman from the presence of breasts on the armor, recoiled slightly. "Hello? Are you the Shadow Broker?" Her voice had a very synthetic quality to it, but then again, Quarian. They spent their entire lives locked in those things. It was obviously not something a claustrophobe would enjoy. The voice also sounded very, very young. Shepard gave the Quarian a confused glance, up and down. "You're the one with the information on Saren?" "I'm only giving it to the Shadow Broker," the Quarian said. "Well, Fist lied to you. The Shadow Broker never meets people in person. You're here to kill me, aren't you?" she recoiled back. Shepard palmed her face. "No, but we are," came another voice over another rifle. Shepard's own weapon was still on her back. Reaching for it would take too long.
I would gloat about how easy this turned out to be, but I've got another appointment. Shepard's eyes flicked aside to the keeper tunnels. Instead of green-plated, four-legged bug things, there were black-armored and blue-skinned women, with various implements of ballistic death. A glance up showed that there were the bulging helmets of Solarians in full armor, prepared to drop. Shepard looked back down. Outnumbered, surrounded, and because of the terrible equipment the Normandy had shipped out with, outgunned. Needless to say, Shepard smirked. This was going to be fun. Without a word, Shepard kicked wide, and her armored toes scraped along the wall. A ripple traveled through that wall in a spare moment before erupting in a block of rebar-laced concrete, which smashed the Turian in the side of the face. Instantly, Shepard hit the floor, because she knew that her biotic companion would be advancing immediately. The Asari tried to blast the Quarian at point blank, but after a second and a rush of displaced air, there was an angry, half-drunk biotic in the way, and that Asari was being blasted into the wall from the advance. One of the other Asari gestured broadly at Shepard as she tried to get back on her feet, now that Nilsdaughter had joined the fray. Rather than pushing to her feet, she found herself being dragged off the ground. Her eyes bugged wide, and all the wider when her shields began to crackle as the bullets pinged off of them. Damn it! She couldn't get any traction. But her salvation came from a biotic kick from Alenko, which smashed the Asari aside and down over the rail of the keeper tunnel. She had heard that it was a rather long fall. Shepard immediately dropped to the floor and rolled aside as the Solarian tried to put a slug through her. That attempt was answered by Al-Wahim, instantly putting one through the Solarian's helmet. She pushed to her feet and was greeted by a sight she didn't expect. The Quarian wasn't running, fleeing, or hiding. She had quickly grabbed the shotgun from Nilsdaughter's back and was laying about with a surprising capability. When the Turian sprayed her with bullets, which bounced off her own shields, she answered him with a pair of shotgun blasts to the face. Shepard looked up, then down. Pipes. Lots and lots of pipes. That smirk returned. With a heave and a stomp, a motion exactly halfway between metal bending and water bending, she tore the water which flowed through the utility area to her command. With a twist, it was formed into a broad ring which she lashed out with ease and aplomb, belaying the many difficult years it had taken her to even get a grasp of the element. Once she had, though, the possibilities became endless. So when she flicked out her hand, and with it razor-sharp ice, it was with the brutal efficiency of a woman who had taken everything and turned it into a weapon, the hate of somebody who almost forgot how to be happy. By the end, she was screaming like Nilsdaughter. By the end, only the humans and the Quarian were left standing. Blood, of light and dark blues and greens, were slowly mingling on the ground, until Shepard let the water drop from her control, and spill as it would. Alenko gave a glance around. "Udina's not going to be happy about this," he noted. "Udina's never happy," Nilsdaughter said, then turned to the Quarian. "Give back my gun, you stupid buckethead."
I can't believe I was so stupid, the Quarian exclaimed. I honestly thought Fist was going to help me.
"Help is contingent on having what I need," Shepard said. "I hear you have data to implicate Saren." The Quarian turned to Shepard. The helmet was very concealing. Only the barest hint of a nose and the sparkling shine of gold-colored eyes could be seen through it. "Oh, right." She opened her Omni-tool, and a waveform appeared before it.
I was digging through a GEF platform I found scuttled on the Armstrong cluster. They usually self-destruct, keeping any program or information inside them from getting stolen. But if you're careful and quick, you can sometimes...
"Out with it, Quarian!" Shepard snapped.
I have a name, the Quarian answered with annoyance. I am Tali Zora Naraya. Who are you?
Tali. Shepard shuddered for a moment, then shook her head. That was the past. She faced the Quarian again. "I'm Commander Shepard. Systems Alliance," she answered with a forced politeness. "So what did you find?" Tali flicked a few commands, and when she did, there was a sound of a deep clicking and grinding, the sound that Geth made, and then a voice. "Eden Prime was a great victory. The beacon will surely show the way to the conduit. Saren." She'd made a point to know that voice very, very well. But Tali didn't switch off the recording. Instead, a feminine voice appeared, cool and authoritative. "And that is one step closer to the return of the Reapers." There was a buzzing in her head, a crackling behind her eyes. "Reapers? Why did that seem so familiar to her? I came with these to the Citadel as soon as I found out what it was, Tally explained, showing that the vocal spectrometry showed a positive match to Agent Saren Artyrus of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance. It was obvious that any Spectre who was working with the Geth was somebody who needed to be stopped. Of that, we're in perfect agreement, Shepard said, shaking away any sense of déjà vu. She gave a smirk to Alenko. I think Udine is going to forgive a little property damage when he sees what we're about to bring him. I certainly hope so, Alenko said idly, glancing around. Just then, a section of the wall crumbled, leaving a bewildered-looking Solarian in a towel, standing facing them, a toothbrush in his mouth. They stared back at him. I'm going to go now, the Solarian said, before carefully backing away from the heavily armed humans. Shepard amended her chances. At least with this information, Udina wouldn't be quite as furious.